Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures. Tonight we are on episode 176, and Ben can't join us tonight. He is moving forward with his moving, funny enough, and he has a little bit of exploring and adventuring to do before he makes the full move over there, so he'll be spotty for the next couple weeks. But tonight we have the lovely Melissa, my wife, joining me, and my kind of partner in my bushcrafting adventures over the last 17, 18 years?
Something like that, yeah.
But yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about the tales of first. So, it's actually been kind of neat, because as Mel and I have been dating, getting married, and living our lives together, it was fun enough that I could sit back and kind of watch a lot of the first actions that Mel was able to do during her bushcrafting. And we thought it'd be fun to kind of talk about some of those, some of the ones that were first for both of us, maybe some of the first for me. But I mean, like, a big one for us was the first time we actually went camping together. And we've talked about this story before in the past. We hadn't actually dated for that long.
No, we started dating in March, and we went camping in July.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember. It wasn't long anyway. I was surprised you agreed to go. We had friends came with us, friend, I guess. And anyway, that was kind of our common ground. We went camping. But we had a lot of fun. We went up to a lake. We had since gone to that lake several times again, at least.
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3 times again after that. But in any case, that was kind of the first time we had been out together, bushcrafting, camping, whatever. And it kind of took a little bit of a lull there for a little bit. Because we were still young, we were still going to school, we were trying to figure ourselves out and things like that. We still went out and did adventures. It just wasn't as
Often or well-equipped.
yeah, as it has been in the last, say, 10, 15 years.
Yeah, it's gotten better over time for sure.
Probably in 15 years. What would have been 2006, 7, 8? So from like 2008 onward, however long that would be. Well, that's damn near 15 years.
2008.
Yeah, because prior to that, we lived in Halifax. We didn't move
yeah.
back until 2006.
We lived in the big city for a second.
Yeah, so
that
anyway,
lasted. No,
as you can see. But anyway, it was after we moved back out to the rural areas that we actually got back to the adventuring and stuff like that. But anyway, that was our first kind of outing like that. And I guess that's where our journey starts together. But it's not where it ended at all. So we did have a couple things, milestones that you kind of hit while we were doing our adventuring and stuff like that. One of the big ones that I remember specifically was the first time you started a primitive fire. You have no idea what I'm talking about.
No, I know what you're talking about. I don't know specifically the first time I made. I don't remember the time, but I mean...
It was Elma, when we were doing the very cold weather stuff.
Oh, that was the cold weather.
Yeah.
Well, you can lump that under first cold weather experience, too, because it was nearly minus 40 Celsius. It teaches you a lot of things really quickly, including how badly you need a fire and how large it needs to be. And then when you're also deciding that this is the time that you're going to make your first primitive fire, I'm remembering now, it puts a little bit of a bigger drive on it, that's for sure.
Yeah, so it was the first time you started a fire with ferrocerium rod, which honestly, like I've discussed in past episodes and stuff like that, ferrocerium rods is still
quote unquote primitive. I mean, it wasn't like a Rougarou or a hand drill or anything like that. I wasn't getting crazy or anything.
It was the first time you actually properly prepped your tinder because you knew you weren't going to have a lighter to just basically hold a flame to it and start it and just, worst case, keep the fire to it and eventually it's going to catch. You literally had to take your time. You prepared your tinder. You got all your fine fuels ready. You got your kindling ready. You got your small sticks, big sticks. Like, you did the whole thing. I literally helped cut stuff and just kind of threw it down beside. You sorted it all out. You split everything up. You made the fire. That was one of our goals in going out there. It was one of the skills she wanted to practice. For me, it was the cold weather side of it, because it was an odd cold weather. It was like this super deep freeze we had, but there wasn't a lot of snow.
No, there wasn't. It was just really cold.
It was like this really sudden cold snap in January.
Welcome to Canada.
And we hadn't had a lot of snow. There might have been a skiff down or something like that, but there wasn't much, and it was fairly dry. Like, humidity was down pretty good too. So it was like a prime time to go out and actually try some fire lighting skills because you weren't going to have to deal with everything being sopping wet. Though where we went to practice them was literally down by a river where everything was still relatively damp.
Yeah, definitely building the tinder bundle became of the utmost importance, and that was probably another skill that I was really practicing at the time, was making an adequate tinder bundle to throw sparks into. So yeah, that was definitely a part of it for sure.
And it was cold, and we're saying,
So cold.
yeah, you can't stress this cold enough. I remember our fingers not working properly because it was so cold. It was kind of our safety net. We weren't that far from
No.
home. So we didn't mind pushing ourselves probably a little more than what we needed to, but it really wasn't that detrimental because, you know, if things got real bad and things started getting numb or waxy, you know, like frostbite setting in, we could have pulled the plug and bailed. We were less than 5 minutes from our car. And then the car was less than 10 minutes, 15 minutes from our house.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, we had a good safety net back onto that. But, no, I remember that one. We also learned that's the first time both of us kind of had this learning off the value of insulation under you during cold weather. So, a lot of time I had brought little pads and stuff like that to sit on. We had our chairs actually. We had our camping chairs, like our fold-up chairs.
Oh
And
yeah,
we thought that's what we were going to use.
We thought we were in a lounge in full-on camping chairs. No.
So anyway, we sat there and we were trying to stay warm by the fire, but just between the sheer coldness off it and the breeze that was out there, because this was minus 40 with wind chill, like it was nippy. We couldn't actually sit in the chairs. We were starting to legitimately freeze. Like things were starting to get tingly and stuff like that. So we ended up getting closer to the ground, but we built fir boughs. That was your idea, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. So I think this is the first time I've ever used fir boughs the way that we know we can use them, which is for cold weather insulation. Of course, I knew that that was an option in our area. Obviously, here in Canada, we have lots of the pine and fir forestry. So I had always intended to practice building probably like some kind of a shelter or something with some fir or pine boughs. Just insulation wise and on the ground inside. So this was the first time that we just really started stacking them up, and it was surprising how quickly the amount adds up that you need to cut in order to have a thick enough insulation under you, especially if you're not like the tiniest person in the world and you have some weight to you. That really accounts for like the thickness of the boughs that you need underneath you to provide any actual insulation between you and the ground, which is of course, you know, sucks the cold straight out of you if you don't have a barrier between you and it. So we've learned the importance of that for sure that day too.
Yeah, and on that note, I think we actually made 5 or 6 inches thick each pads to sit on. And once we did get down close to the ground, had that layer between us. Excuse me, because sitting on the ground itself was completely out of the question. That was absolutely freezing. I remember just touching the rocks and stuff to build the fire pit. It drained a lot of heat out of our hands, even through our gloves and stuff. There was some real conditions to battle there. It really gave me a respect for cold weather survival.
I had like 4 or 5 like full on thermal layers on.
Yeah, no, we went equipped for this too. It wasn't like, we'll go skimpily and then we need the fire. Like, we had thermal underwear on. We had nice big warm pants and stuff on, warm coats, gloves, hats, good winter boots, and we were still getting fairly cold just because the wind chill was cutting through us.
Fleece balaclava, like thin polar fleece sweater on a thermal insulating, like double backed sweater on a wool on top of a cotton, or not a cotton, but the wool blend thermal underclothes. So yeah, I had like a lot.
So yeah, that was a good first, because that was really one of the. No, it probably wasn't the biggest milestone of our adventuring out there, but it was definitely a good one. I guess one of the big ones that sticks in our memory as well would probably be the first time I took you to the waterfalls, or the first time we went to the waterfalls at all. And we've talked about, or Ben and I have talked about that because that was one of our first camping trips out there and stuff like that. So anybody that's a regular listener of the show, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But this waterfall location, Mel and I actually started adventuring there before Ben and I went there. It was one of those things. I was driving back and forth to work. I used to work in Middle Musquodoboit, traveled past the area, and he used to pick up this hitchhiker. And honestly, it was one of those things, like, Buddy was just always in the same spot. And finally, I'm like, so, man, what are you doing here? And he's like, I'm staying at this waterfall that's in the woods for the summer. He was doing one of these. He just wanted to basically stay in nature for a couple months and whatever reasons, anywho. And he showed me where it was, or told me how to get there, and I found it during the winter, and I think I threw pictures of that up before. And then during the summer, we made a point of going. And the first time we had gone there was a couple firsts for us. Like, that was the first time we stayed by or under a waterfall. And we learned a couple things about that. One, there's always a breeze, which is good because there's generally less flies. Well, black flies and mosquitoes. You still get, like, flies or horse flies or whatever you want to call them. Those still seem to be fairly prevalent. They have enough wing power, I guess, to not combat the wind off the waterfall. The second thing we learned is it's always damp, regardless of how low the humidity is everywhere else, because it's a waterfall, obviously, in hindsight. It's always got that mist going around, so you always kind of have a dampness in the air. It's not bad, don't get me wrong, but it's always there. It's persistent. It does make it a little trickier to get fires going and things like that when you're doing, like, ferrocerium rods or a bow drill or something like that. It's something to keep in mind, maybe move away from the waterfalls. And the last thing is the noise. The sheer noise is the big thing that really surprised me about that waterfall. And what's your thoughts on that?
Well, you know my thoughts on it because I came prepared. But more than the sheer noise of sleeping under waterfalls for the first time, it does become a bit of like a white noise, background noise thing. So it does fade away later on as you spend more time there. But I did notice, especially at night when everything else is quiet and you're sleeping, the waterfall roar, the rushing sound that's really just absolutely relentless, tends to do a fun little trick to your brain. So it's a form of apophenia, which is auditory pareidolia. And look, I looked this up before I came because I knew it had a name, but I couldn't remember what it was. So audio pareidolia or auditory pareidolia. And that is when your brain takes the sounds that it is hearing from your environment and tries to create a pattern where there isn't one. So that typically for your brain means that it's going to create something that you're familiar with, which typically in this situation is the sound of human voices. So when you are sleeping under a waterfall and you hear the rushing and the roaring, and that's fine, all of a sudden your brain starts to organize that auditory input and turn it into what can only be described as, instead of a relentless roar, it's a relentless whisper. So you're like half hearing conversations. It sounds like someone's yelling, hey, and it's echoing. You hear all kinds of really strange feedback that your brain just creates for you for fun in the dead of the night when you're trying to sleep and there's a waterfall nearby. So the first time you experience that, it's a fun time.
But to be fair, you were slightly prepared for that because the first time we'd gone camping up by the lake, I do remember someone specifically asking what every single noise was out in the woods.
There was a lot of wildlife. I feel like there was some birds doing some stuff and some raccoons doing some stuff.
And something splashing around the water.
Yeah, the fish were splashing. There was just a lot of environmental noise, which is, again, something different than this, but also fun when your brain is when you're not used to those kinds of sounds and your brain picks up on every single one of them with a, what's that? What's that? What's that? kind of response, instead of just automatically blending them into the background.
No, and I can see that, honestly, because people that, like, sleep in their houses and they don't have any noises going on in their house, or they get familiar with the noises. When something's out of that ordinary or out of that normal range of noises, you tend to pick up on it. So now you're sleeping in an environment where there's just constant noises you're not familiar with. So it's probably going to heighten your senses a little bit. You're going to be subconsciously straining to hear them a little bit more. And then when you do hear them, you try to rationalize what they are.
Well, plus you try to be a little bit extra aware, I think, when you're in the woods. I don't know, I try to pay attention at least a little bit to my surroundings.
You're either going to get eaten by the bear or you're not. Paying attention isn't going to help you.
I'd like to know if the bear is coming.
Oh, he's coming.
Oh,
somewhere,
for sure is.
Somehow, there's a bear coming for you.
We have a whole talk on bear strategies after our parks trip last summer. Just flashback to last summer about this time, and you'll see how to survive a bear attack from Parks Canada.
And that's actually true. That was the first time we went through the Skyline Trail off of the Cape Breton Highlands. And yeah, they gave us a pamphlet on bear attacks, and that was awesome. So we
you have
did
to
post that
judge
up.
their mood and the
oh yeah, like
what their motivation for being in the area is. Are they hungry? Are they tired? Are you just in their way?
very sophisticated stuff in a panicked moment.
I feel like there was a lot of chart following that was supposed to happen when you're also being confronted by a bear that I don't think I was
prepared. The flow chart is
prepared.
not going to be referenced in that instance.
I don't think it was going to help.
It's not going to happen. But another first that I see on our list here is I remember the first time you were fishing. Or more specifically, the first time you caught a fish.
Yeah. So that was also at the waterfall, actually. The waterfall has excellent fishing. But yeah, so it was kind of a running joke all through my childhood that my dad always said that he was going to take me fishing that weekend. We never went fishing. He hates fishing. Fishing never happened. So I didn't do a lot of fishing as a child. So when I got with Robert, he did try to kind of suck me into that life of fishing things. And I was willing to give it a try for sure. I don't, in general, enjoy things that require taking an animal's life. Robert's aware of this about me. But I thought maybe a fish would be fine. It's a fish. It's not like cute, so that helps.
Ugly.
So I was fine with everything. The worm even makes me a little uncomfortable, but I was willing to sacrifice it.
I think I put the worm on.
I made you put it on. Don't get it wrong, but I was okay with sacrificing its tiny little existence. But then when I wasn't great about it. But anyway, the problem comes when you've actually hooked your first fish and you aren't prepared to deal with what happens after that, which is dragging it in by its face and it fighting you the entire way and not enjoying the experience at all. So which immediately made me not enjoy the experience at all. And I, in a very panicked state, which doesn't actually happen very often to me, turned to Robert and said, take it.
And by take it, she threw the damn rod and was like, take it!
I was done.
Like,
I walked
yeeted
away.
that thing straight across at me, like, nope, I'm out.
I couldn't control it. I had to get it out of my hands. I wasn't willing to participate any further. And the experience needed to end immediately. So that turned out well.
Yeah, so that was the first time fishing. However, we did do a few other first times that weren't so bad. First time that we had some prepared wild game, like venison and stuff like that. You actually enjoy grouse.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. I enjoy eating animals. I just personally am not great at killing them. I understand it needs to happen. I probably think I could do it if I had to. But I
don't know, man.
Oh, I guarantee you. Listen, this fat girl is hungry. I will kill something and eat it. But the problem is that I'm not going to do it for fun. Like, it's not my...
Well, nobody does it for... Well, some do it for fun.
Kind of
I
for
do
fun.
it to eat. I'm hungry. I need to eat. Well, I don't sport hunt. I hunt to put meat in the freezer, which you eat.
We have the means to buy food from the grocery store.
Not always.
So I tend to kind of lean that way.
As you're chewing on Bambi going, she's so delicious.
Oh, I love animals. Both alive and in my tummy, but I'm not going to kill them to put them there.
I don't discriminate
if
against my animals.
If they happen to be served to me, that's fine. Yeah.
But no, that's fair. I do remember the first time fishing. It's a special place in my heart that I'll probably remember to the day I die, because just that absolute
I
panic
don't
stricken
panic
look.
like that.
Yeah, I don't know,
Typically.
man. That oh no, not typically,
No,
not at
it's
all.
not. It's
But
not a
that panic there
move
was
for me.
real. Like I
Yeah.
thought, I don't know what I thought, but I didn't think it was you hooked a fish.
Yeah.
But no, that was a rough old time for old Melissa. But we also learned a lot about like taking pets and stuff with us while we were camping, because we had been out on adventures and stuff like that, but up until that point we'd never really had any pets to speak of to take with us, and then we started getting our Boston Terriers at the time. And the first one we took camping with us was, of course, Baby Girl, and if anybody sees my Facebook page there, you can find pictures of her back there. But she was a tiny little Boston Terrier, and I mean, for Boston Terrier standards, she was a tiny old girl. And she has special needs. She had a jaw that wouldn't open, and her tongue always stuck out. And these were things like at home were no real big deal, but we didn't expect like the relentless bugs that would bite her tongue.
Yeah.
And that was something. So I guess the takeaway from that is if you do have an animal or something like that and you want to take them camping with you, by all means go for it. But if they have any special requirements, you got to take those into consideration as well. We had bought bug spray for her, and we put some on the dog. She had a collar, tick collar, and I think, no, well, not a collar, I guess. We used the tick treatment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
just
tick treatment.
Yeah.
And we had bug stuff and things like that, but you can't really spray the bug spray on her tongue.
When her tongue hangs out 100% of the time, it's hard to treat that area of her body, yeah, without just
So she
poisoning
spent a lot of
her.
time in the tent, unfortunately for her, but at least kept the bugs off her. And frankly, she liked just sunning herself in the tent
Yeah,
through the
she's fine
screen.
with it.
She was happy with it, because you have to understand this dog was basically part demon. She could not be warm enough. Like,
No.
she was definitely super
Hellfire
nice
was
dog.
too hot. Not hot
Super
enough,
nice
rather.
dog, but I mean, yeah, she had a spicy side, or needed a spicy side. But anyway, we learned a lot about animals that way. And then when we went to the first Nova Scotia Bushcraft gathering, which was back in 2016,
Yep.
yeah, we learned how to take a baby camping, which was another interesting thing, which actually went way better than I was expecting. Melissa was all on board for it, to be perfectly honest. She was like, oh no, I got this. And I'm like, it's a tiny little creature we're dragging into the woods. We know how the dog went.
The dog didn't go well, Melissa. We're going to do it with a human. It's a bad idea.
And anyway, Mel's like, no, I got this. I got this all figured out. So me, of course, being the overprotective dad right from the get-go, I had like the generator on the truck with the bottle warmer and everything. I'm like,
Absolutely.
I know we're going camping, but I mean, this is my baby. I'm going to make sure it's got milk and stuff like that. Mel's like, no, don't worry about it. We got this.
I was also still breastfeeding at the time, but for some reason he felt like he needed to
were
bring the
still-
entire generator just to power the bottle
We used
warmer.
it.
I don't know.
A lot. Just saying, we used it a lot. But anyway, no, Mel really did have it down packed. She had what was the thing? Some sort of sling that
Just a ring sling, which is a baby carrier.
and that's how she did the entire weekend. She even did a course while she was there.
Yeah, it was my first time teaching a bushcraft course.
So and that was on cordage.
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 Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Of course. I've been here how many times talking about cordage.
which is a skill that you picked up literally like that, and it's a skill I always struggle with. I mean, I get it. I know how to do it if I had to
blame
do it.
on my grandmother's 52 approximate attempts at teaching me how to knit.
I guess. Like I said, I get how to make cordage. If I had to do it, I could make it. I don't enjoy it, and I'm not particularly good at it. But you can literally hammer out like 5 feet of cordage in a couple minutes.
That was the first time I made an entire spool of cordage. That was very thin, and could be rolled on a spool, and you could have just packed it as, like low strength cordage just for tying things. Yeah.
And I think a lot of the time there you're using like long grass and bulrush.
Yeah.
Bulrush leaf. And it worked out really well. And I had a thought, and now it's totally gone. Actually, I think I have the very first cordage you ever made hanging in my truck, or somewhere around the time you were making your very first
That was
cordage.
one of the first times I started playing
Yeah.
with it. Yeah, that was at the waterfall too. The waterfall is a place that we return to at least yearly. We try, if not more, but at least yearly we try to get back into the area because it's become a bit of a anniversary trip for us at this point to go down there. And we've done a lot of our skill building and our bushcrafting time and just kind of outdoors adventuring in that area together over the last, whatever it was, 18 years.
Well, to be fair, I think the waterfall was actually where I did my first in-nature bow drill.
Yeah.
I'd done them before at home, and I
Well,
practiced my
yeah,
skills
you
out back
practiced
and
for
stuff.
weeks and weeks. We've told
No, that was the
story.
hand drill. The bow drill up until
Oh, the
that
bow
point,
drill, yes,
I
yes.
had practiced it when I was younger and knew the concepts. But literally, we were at the waterfall. I'm like, oh yeah, you can totally make fire by rubbing two sticks together. I've done this at home, and
Yeah.
I've done this at home, and I've done this in the wild. They're two different things. It didn't go too bad, but it was a way more effort than I expected it to be right out of the gate. But we did get it going, and it worked out. I mean, I think it was a fur spindle and some other stuff. But anyway, since then I've... What you looking for?
My phone.
Right
there
there.
it is, yeah.
Since then I've gone on to do it, quite a bit more and stuff like that, and actually gotten better at doing it. But yeah, that was the first time out in nature. I was just like, oh yeah, let's make a fire by rubbing two sticks together. I've done it at home. It's not that hard. And yeah, so that was a first from there too.
Oh, I forgot to put my hat on. Look, I came prepared and
I've
everything.
been watching it
I know, I
sit
sat
there.
there and then I forgot. Look, here we go.
So it's first time Mel's ever been in the podcast on the video side, as you can.
It's not my first time.
I'm first
confused.
time Mel ever understood sarcasm.
So this is our fantastic, for those who can't see it, Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures folding hat. It's my favorite. I've been wearing it all summer this year, actually. And it can fold up. Oh, wow, hat head. Okay, and then this part can, like, look at this. It's so tiny and adorable.
And that was created by Missy G Makes,
Yeah,
Ben's
Missy
wife.
made it.
So if you're interested in something like that, you'll have to get a hold of her once the move is completed, if they're still going to be doing that stuff.
Cute.
I need to get a second one because mine was taken from me. And
I
I've
don't
yet
know
to
what
get it
happened
back.
to it. It has this really look, it's fantastic. It has this really awesome spandex kind of stretchy back with a clip, and it's like a neoprene sports material.
Yep.
I don't know if it's neoprene,
it might be
vinyl.
ripstop.
Yeah, it's good.
But anyway, no, it was a great hat. when I
Shameless
had
plug,
it.
not really, but actually, I actually really love it.
Yeah, it was a
It really
great
works
hat
really good
when
with
I originally
glasses
had it.
because these little flaps can kind of do their own thing, which I always struggle with because I wear transition lenses. So I wear these glasses inside and outside, and I always find it really hard to find a hat that doesn't like poke the corners of my glasses into my face.
There you go, shameless
Yeah,
plug
there you
for
go.
Atlantic
Yeah, you know.
Bushcraft merchandise.
I think it's cute.
So you have to get in contact with Ben if you're interested in something like that. And for our audio listeners, you'll have to flip over to the YouTube channel, which is youtube.com, of course. I think it's /C/Atlantic Bushcraft. Or just search Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures on YouTube, and you'll find us. It comes up every time.
Yeah.
And you can check out this hat, episode 176, I think I said we were on, or something like that.
It's cute.
So, but yeah, it's been a short but long run with a lot of interesting times that we started off on, and I'm sure we could go on for ages and ages about other stories and things. But I kind of wanted to highlight some of the major things we have done, and I think we've hit quite a few of those. Is there anything else you can think of, Melissa?
I don't think so.
No, I think that's pretty good. I mean, the waterfall, first time I tried the Sawyer Mini there, but we've talked about that, made whistles, all that stuff. Well, it comes back to the waterfall. If you hear we're going to a waterfall adventure at any point in our future, chances are that we're going to do something there. That'll be a first for us. Because as Mel said, it's kind of become our home base for trying stuff. It's like an old glove. Every time you go there, you just kind of snuggle right back in. It's got a permanent fire pit. We got a nice little area where we set up our tent. There's great trees to set up hammocks. It's just a pretty decent area all the way around. Oh, another first time there. First time naked on the rocks and somebody showed up. Oh, anyway.
Things happen.
But, no, it was a good time there. And I think instead of just ranting and raving about a whole bunch of other first, that'll probably loop back to other stories we've already told 100 times. 30-minute episode's pretty good for a short and easy until we get Ben back in the works here and for a topic that we kind of came up with last minute. Because the original topic kind of needed a little bit more prep. So we did come in not totally unprepared, because we did decide on this a few hours ago and sat down. We did make some cheat notes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But we do have another topic coming up either next week or the week after. And tell us a little bit about that, Mel, because it's kind of your thing.
So I'll be back to talk about the therapeutic benefits of outdoors adventuring. So spending time in nature, de-stressing, meditation, some yoga practices you can do outdoors, and as well as some like barefoot grounding, just kind of some thoughts. So I'm not all woo about it. I don't think that I have a divine inner light that connects to the sun, but I do think that there's a lot of legitimate value and benefit to the fresh air, to the time spent unplugged, to the focus on yourself and your wellness when you're outdoors enjoying nature. And I do think that there's something to being barefoot outside. I've done it a lot. I'm not Cody Lundeen level. I don't go adventuring barefoot for the entire trek, but I am willing to do it around campsite and quite often in the woods. And I do enjoy the fact that it seems to kind of center my just kind of stressful energy and kind of reconnects me to that kind of level of calm. So yeah, we'll have a chat about the therapeutic benefits of nature at some point in the next few weeks.
So definitely look forward to that. I'm going to be plugging that episode quite a bit. Like I said, I haven't decided on the exact date yet. It's going to depend on if Ben can squeeze in an episode while he's traveling, or if he can't. Like I said, might be next week.
I'm just a filler, is what he's saying.
No, you can come on, but I mean, I would rather pretty much dedicate that episode to...
I'm the discount basement version of Ben.
I would rather dedicate that entire episode to basically you doing your due.
No time.
So, like I said, I'm going to plug that a lot. I will announce it a couple days in advance. To any of our listeners out there that don't come over to the YouTube side of things, definitely check out the Facebook page. I'll be plugging it there, like I said, and sharing it around, trying to get a lot of listeners in, because I think it's going to be a great lot of stuff. For anyone that doesn't know, Melissa does do education for her like day job. That's what she does. She's an ECE. She also works with the education department, or not the she's explained it to me 100 times, and I still have difficulty trying to explain to other people what you do.
I have about 7 different positions. So.
And that's the thing. Yeah. It's just she works in education is generally what I get. They all
kind of blend together.
So she does have a pretty good grasp on teaching stuff. She has a fun way of teaching stuff, and she knows what's important. And what's meaningful, I guess, is more what I'm getting to. So if you are picking one episode that, oh, hey, I can probably make one, it's probably a good one to think about and come on back for. I'm basically going to turn the entire episode over to her, and I'm just going to kind of kick back and put my 2 cents in where I can. Maybe we'll change up the recording studio a little bit here, and we'll do it out where you have some room if you want to show some stuff or something like that. Do it in the sunroom or something like that. Things will happen. We'll do whatever we have to make the best.
Over here.
We'll do whatever we have to make the episode as entertaining and informative as I can within the realm of being poor. Like I do everything, and that's basically been the motto of Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures for ages. Ben will attest to that as well. We do everything that we can.
In Robert's defense, we did have a very small short-time adventure called Budget Bushcraft right before Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures, where we did focus on the very cost-effectiveness of being out in the woods, because it has value to make the outdoors accessible to all economic levels. So yeah.
And that was the kind of idea behind that, was everybody said, oh, you need so much money to get into bushcrafting. You have to buy
such expensive
sleeping bag with an expensive tent and expensive this. And I was like, no, man, you don't. And I'm going to prove it. And that's where Budget Bushcraft came at it. And the truth is, I had so much fun with Budget Bushcraft, I wanted to expand it. And that's when I got in touch with Ben. And we kind of developed this whole thing. Actually, some of the original Budget Bushcraft content is rebranded and available under this heading here.
Batteries on your... Do you want to say goodnight to everyone?
Want to say goodnight? We're just both signing off.
Good.
Come on over, wave, and say goodnight.
Good night. Good night, everyone.
So we'll end it there, folks. We'll see you next week, whoever happens to be back here. Same time, same place.
Batteries in your
night, everybody.
Good night.
We'll see